I haven't eaten a vegetable in a month. Hey, what's up everybody? Commander Radix here bringing you another video, and today we are going to do another episode of Community Comments. Well, would you look at that? I finally released a Community Comments video a month after the last one. I am actually within the month time frame, you know, instead of taking half a year like I usually do. So if you don't know, Community Comments is my series that I do on this channel where you can ask me questions about whatever, and I will answer them. Typically, I answer all of the questions in some way, shape, or form. But keep in mind that any questions about specifically Transformers lore stuff should be asked in my series, Transformers More Lore. But we have a lot of good questions today, so without any further ado, let's get started. Matthew Esco, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, 8690 asks, I know this may be a bit late, but in terms of issues or collected stories, which stories collect the most of the background for Megatron outside of the IDW omnibuses? First of all, what are you talking about? You say IDW omnibuses, so I assume you're talking about the IDW Hasbro universe? The universe that existed from like 2015 to like 2018, 2019 or so. I don't know what you mean by IDW omnibuses. I think you're talking about the IDW collected, the IDW Transformers, the IDW collection hardcovers. I guess they are not always hardcovers, but those collected editions. As far as I know, that's what you're talking about. If that's not, then I apologize. And you're specifically looking for the background of Megatron, which I would say that all of the background of Megatron in the IDW universe should be found in the IDW collection series. If there's a strong possibility that you're not talking about what I think you're talking about, but as I understand it, that would be my answer. You have everything in there. Maybe there are some like Lost Light volumes that that weren't put into the collection before IDW exploded. Maybe. Diego Dank Quixote Rai 3242 says, it's been 3 years since you made your Energon video, and I wondered if you still preferred Energon over Superlink, or do you love both equally? What are some of the specific moments that you prefer one over the other? I enjoy Energon as well, and also wondering if you'll ever make another video covering more of your opinions about Energon. Well, to start with the last part, if I'll ever make any more videos explicitly covering my opinions about Energon, I kinda said most of what I have to say about Energon in that video. I don't really have anything else to say. What I am planning, like later on down the year, if I can keep it up, there is a... how do you say? I'm trying to be more mindful of my production schedule on this channel and how I release content. I try to upload a video once a week, usually coming up on Saturday morning, my time. And then every now and then per season, I want to do a sort of mini-series that will come out on, I think it's Monday morning, my time. So you might know, if you're watching this, you know, when it came out recently, that I recently started The Symbolism of Transformers series, and that's coming out for 7 weeks every week on Monday. I'm considering one day in the future in the lineup to do a review of every Transformers series and have that sort of be its own special mini-series. And in that case, I will review Transformers Energon in its own video. Not so much as an apologetic or defense of Transformers Energon, but more of an actual review of Energon. Now the first part about if I preferred Energon over Superlink or do I love both equally, I will say this, I love Transformers Energon, but when I say I love Transformers Energon, that's with the caveat of you have to include Scorponok's Scars in that lineup. Scorponok's in the lineup of episodes. Scorponok's Scars is one of the most important episodes in Transformers Energon. It helps set everything up. And the problem with the English dub, Transformers Energon, is that they forgot it. They forgot the whole episode. So there's no English dub version of Scorponok's Scars. So you just have the Superlink one. And if you're going to be nitpicky about which version you watch, then yeah, Scorponok's Scars is important. Besides that, I don't like how the dub in Transformers Energon is not good. They like to throw in a lot of sound effects and weird dialogue translations into the thing. Whenever there's a period of somber silence in Superlink, Energon will put in a "Boy, Optimus, Earth is a beautiful planet," in the voice of a character that's incorrect for what character they think should be speaking. They do that a lot too. They have the wrong character speaking when a different character is talking. So if we get into the nitty-gritty of it, you know, I guess you could say Superlink is better. That's not how I think about it, though. I tend to think of Energon and Superlink as the same thing, so I don't really have the mental separation in my head. Superlink does better with the dialogue. However, my nostalgia is for Transformers Energon. The English version is what I watched growing up. I have a strong attachment to the voices in that show. And so whenever I rewatch, sometimes I'll rewatch Superlink every now and then, but usually when I'm watching Transformers Energon, it's Transformers Energon. But anyway, yeah, glad to see another Transformers Energon fan in the comments. We will slowly pull together every last Transformers Energon fan on the planet and create an empire. And now we have a few questions from TFEES. Number 1, what does Oni mean? I first heard the word Oni in Transformers Go. An Oni is a demon. Sometimes you'll see it translated ogre or orc, which are also demons. But yeah, Oni are demons from Japan, the Shinto mythos, as it were. Bold of them to assume that not every kami in Shinto is a demon. Number 2, will you cover any more American history? Yeah, I guess I should go into more detail. So, under the title History and Lore, I'm going to cover as much as possible. Yes, I do plan on covering more American history. Because I am American. I have taught American history before. I do know American history. Now, one thing I want to address is Commander Radix's American history. By the way, the episode 5, I think it is, the episode titled God's Fury, that is still being created. It's in the editing phase, but it's also really long. With that, Commander Radix's American history is kind of getting redirected and underneath the History and Lore series. So Commander Radix's American History is now a series within History and Lore, the series. The problem is, do I want to do like this weird thing where, hey, there's about 2 hours of content before this, but now it's actually called History and Lore? Do I do the thing where, like, you know, I try to make the videos in my History and Lore style instead of my Commander Radix's American History style, in which case there will be a big change in like mood and atmosphere between series? Or do I take some of the topics I talked about in the previous Commander Radix's American History series and then just sort of redo them in the History and Lore style? And then once we reach the point where I've covered everything that I've already talked about in Commander Radix's American History, do we carry on from there? I actually kind of like this idea because it gives me a chance to go back to some things that I think I could have made better, more accurate. It allows me to, if I focus on specific subjects, that means if I miss something, like, I think there's, like, a big event that I accidentally forgot in one of the Commander Radix's American History videos, and, like, it's too late to put that back into the timeline now. But if I do it more modular, where I'm talking about different specific subjects instead of covering a time period, then that will let me retroactively create a American History episode that if you're watching the videos in order, you can fit it into the timeline. I actually really like that idea. I might do that, so don't be surprised if you get another Lost Colony video sometime this year. There are some other factors that have kind of made me put off some American history videos recently. One thing you have to know about me is that I am a Southerner, so my deep interest in American history is mostly about the South, and Southern history can get spicy sometimes. And I already make enough controversial videos, so in order to avoid more hate, I'm sitting on some ideas. Don't know when I'm ready to release it out into the wild. Number 3, how would you feel if the Transformers franchise died? That "if" is doing a lot of work. What you have to understand is, from my perspective, the Transformers franchise is already dead. I don't care about the Transformers franchise as a brand. I cared about the stories, the metafiction that was told from 1984 to 2015, with some stragglers being released later. What would fit into the Transformers multiverse? I feel like I'm saying this every video recently. That ended with the Shroud. So, I've been talking about the Shroud in every video recently too. So to me, what I liked about the Transformers franchise is dead. They are no longer making material that's in that universe, except for like Skybound's G.I. Joe, I guess. If the Transformers franchise as a franchise died today, I wouldn't feel anything. I think I've described the Transformers franchise from my perspective at this point essentially being a zombie. Its soul is already dead, and now it's just, walking about. All the multiverse stuff has already been released. That's what I've been focusing on then, that's what I've been focusing on now, and that's what I'll be focusing on in the future. I don't really care about anything that's come out after 2015, 2016 if it's not connected to the multiverse. So from my point of view, the Transformers franchise, for what I got out of it, already is dead. 4. Would you recommend comics dubs to people who don't read comics? No, and there are a few reasons for this. First of all, people have different reasons for not reading comics. And honestly, if you're not reading comics because you don't enjoy them for some aspect of them, a comics dub isn't going to change that. It's different from like people who don't read books but do enjoy audiobooks. Because reading actual books does require more brain power than reading a comic book, but because comic books have the visual element to them. So you're not engaging just like your ability to comprehend language when reading a comic book. Yeah, there's dialogue, but dialogue tends to be more easier to read than something like, scene setting and inner monologues and stuff like that, although inner monologues are also in comics, but you get the idea. If you don't like reading comics to begin with, a comic dub isn't going to change that. Another thing is, like with audiobooks, one of the reasons people listen to audiobooks is because they're able to do something while listening to the audiobook. They don't have to look at the physical book or anything. With a comic dub, you still need to keep your eyes on the screen, on the comic, because it's a very visual medium. So it's not like you can put on a comic dub in the, up on Spotify while you're driving, right? Like you could do an audiobook on the other hand. Number 5, do you watch everything in Japanese, such as movies, shows, and YouTube? It depends. First of all, I don't really watch movies that much. I watched the Lord of the Rings movies recently, as you saw last week, but I don't usually watch movies. Those were like the first movies I've watched in a long time. I watched those in English because they are originally in English. Shows, I don't really watch shows. Every now and then I'll turn on the TV, and I live in Japan, so the TV is in Japanese, so I might watch Itekyu or something like that, or some sort of game show in Japanese, but that's just because it's the TV and I am in Japan. But I very rarely purposefully try to binge a show or something. With YouTube, it depends. There are some YouTube content creators I like that speak English. There are some YouTube content creators I like that speak Japanese. If I'm in the mood to watch a JonTron video, I will watch a JonTron video in English. If I'm in the mood to watch a PDR video, I will watch a PDR video in Japanese because it's in Japanese. And it really depends on my mood. My mood recently, I've been looking into a lot of philosophy, metaphysics, and theology videos recently. Like a lot of sermons by priests and all that. I've listened to some Japanese sermons by the Japanese Orthodox Church, and some podcasts with the Japanese Orthodox Church that's in Japanese. But for the most part, I'm looking at that stuff in English simply because we're talking about very high level. One, we're talking about very high level concepts that I can comprehend easier in English than in Japanese. And two, there's simply more information available in English, both for me, the viewer, but also for people making videos. Like a lot of Japanese philosophers, Japanese theologians don't have a lot of key text translated into Japanese yet. So take St. John of Damascus's The Fount of Knowledge, right? That hasn't been this is a key text in the Orthodox Church, and it hasn't been translated to Japanese yet. So for things like philosophy and theology, I'm much more likely to consume that content in English. Although, on the flip side, I do watch a lot of Buddhist, like Mahayana Japanese Buddhism videos, things from Buddhist scholars and from Buddhist monks. And of course, the Japanese are going to have a much better understanding of it. They have the sutras, they have everything they need, they have the cultural background. I feel bad for people trying to figure out what Buddhism is all about when they can only speak English, because information about Buddhism in English is a nightmare. So I will watch that stuff in Japanese. Okay, that's going to wrap up this video. That's all the questions I got. A lot of good questions. I enjoyed that. If you have any questions for me about anything, anyone, that's a weird, it's anything, please leave a comment and I will make sure to answer them in the next episode of Community Comments, which will come out next month. While you're here, why not check out my social media videos? All the links are in the description, especially my Twitter, my Discord, my Instagram. But that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, got me in this party all up in the zone. Hottest Betty's trying to take away my